Good evening. Welcome to St. Joseph's Church here in Wilton on a beautiful September evening. As we celebrate the season of creation, let us try as best we can, through our mindfulness practices to develop some new habits. Habits that will help us to enjoy the world created for us. Habits that might help us to express gratitude for the world created for us. Mindful habits which help us to acknowledge our responsibility and our care for the world created for us. But above all, mindful habits that help us to honour the world that feeds and sustains us. Laudato Si asks us to build a better world together. Build a better world together. Through these unprecedented times of climate change and COVID, the world is crying out for hope. And our faith can help us to provide that hope, and it can also help us to build resilience in times of such awful challenge. As we celebrate the season of creation throughout the month of September, Laudato Si encourages us as Christians to work in solidarity as we try to create a just and sustainable future for all of mankind. For all of mankind, not just a chosen few. Laudato Si is asking us to work in solidarity for all of mankind. It reminds us that we inhabit a most beautiful world, a world of plenty, not a world of scarcity, a world of plenty. It delivers our every need, provided we take responsibility and accept our responsibility in caring for it and in caring for each other. So during this season of creation, I would like to invite you to practice mindful eating. And in doing so, express gratitude for the food provided by creation. Food sustains life itself. As Christians, providing food for all, it's a gospel imperative. It's not just another policy decision. St. Matthew reminds us of our call to discipleship when he quotes Jesus by saying, "For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me to drink." Food and its creation, they have become invisible. Food and its creation have become distant, abstract, and anonymous. For many, food comes from a supermarket shelf or a fast food restaurant. We are disconnected from the origin of our food and how it is produced. This disconnection, it buries our sense of curiosity. It buries our sense of enjoyment. It buries our sense of gratitude. For eating, for most people, it's just another autopilot task. We eat when we're multitasking. For example, we eat while we're filling the dishwasher. We eat while we're doing the ironing. We eat on moving, running, walking, cycling. We eat while we're driving. We eat while we're watching TV. We rarely are aware of what we're eating, and we are most certainly not showing gratitude for each mouthful that goes into our mouths. Very few sit, see, smell, taste and savour each mouthful. Unless, of course, they are sitting in a restaurant paying an exorbitant price for each mouthful. Then, of course, if we're paying an exorbitant price for each mouthful, we tend to do it a little more mindfully. I would like to invite you during the season of creation to allow mindful eating become a habit where you will enjoy, a habit where you will become aware, and a habit where you will become grateful for the food that you put in your mouth, and also become aware of the many, many people who do not have a mouthful of food right now. So our practice this evening is going to be a mindful practice. So when we're mindful, what happens? We pay attention with intention in this present moment to this mouthful of food. What might happen? We suddenly become aware. We become aware that food has colour. We become aware that food has taste. We become aware that food smells beautiful. So we suddenly become aware of our food. And once we become aware, we develop attitudes. We develop an attitude of curiosity. We develop an attitude of gratitude. And through those attitudes, lots of other things will happen in our minds. We suddenly discover that food does not come from a supermarket shelf. We suddenly become aware that it didn't appear in the fast food outlet. We begin to wonder at the origin of the food and how it has made its way from its origin to our mouth. And lo and behold, you will discover that creation has a huge part to play in that journey. So this evening, I would like to invite you to engage in a mindful practice with me. So like all mindful practices, you might like to choose a posture, sitting in a dignified upright position, because posture allows us to become mindful. Gently closing the eyes if that feels comfortable. Allowing the awareness to come to the breath. And just noticing the stillness and the silence right here, right now. Of course, there may be sounds of dogs barking, bells ringing, planes flying overhead. But when the awareness is allowed to come to the breath, the sounds do not tend to take up our thought space. So just allowing the awareness to come to the breath. And I would like to invite you to a meditation where mindful eating can become a really, really pleasant experience, not just for the expensive food that you buy, but for every mouthful that you eat each day. This evening, I have 3 very simple, very, very simple pieces of food. I have a grape. You probably eat 10 of these at a time and taste none, because you're doing it on autopilot. I have a piece of cheese, a mouthful of cheese, and I have a mouthful of beautiful brown bread. So as you sit and you meditate this evening, just contemplate on the origin of each of these pieces of food. This grape did not suddenly appear in a supermarket. A lot of work went into producing this grape. The vine had to be planted. The ground had to be prepared. The vine had to be cared for and nurtured by human intervention. The sun had to shine. Some rain had to fall, or some water had to be delivered. A lot of work went into producing this grape. It had to be harvested. It had to be transported. It had to be preserved. And now it is about to reach your mouth. It deserves to be mindfully eaten. Think of this piece of cheese. A cow had to produce milk. That cow had to be cared for. The grass that fed that cow had to be produced. The harvesting of the grass, the care of the animal, the milking of the cow, the care of the milk, the production of this piece of cheese. Do you not think it deserves to be eaten mindfully? This piece of brown bread, the wheat had to be sown. The wheat, the farmer had to care for the soil, the ploughing, the harrowing, the growing, a lot of care, a lot of worry as well went into producing the wheat, the livelihood of the farmer that produced the ingredients for this piece of brown bread. And then, of course, the making of the flour and ultimately the making of the bread. Creation has been involved in the origin of all these pieces of food. Creation is involved in the origin of every bite that goes into your mouth. So man and God work together. Man produces, he cares for the soil, he ploughs, he cares for the animals, he does the harvesting. But only God can make the sun shine. Only God can send the rain. And ultimately, only God can will the growth. So over the next few weeks, I would like to invite you to pay some attention each day to mindful eating. Enjoy it. Be curious. Consider the origin of your food, because the origin is in creation. We are dependent on creation for our food. You probably will enjoy your food a lot more, and you will probably eat less because you won't need as much. You probably will become very conscious of the role creation is playing in sustaining your life. Hopefully you will become conscious and aware of the many millions around the world that are not as fortunate as you. And hopefully you will develop a sense of responsibility and the gospel principle that every human being on this planet has a right to food, and this planet provides plenty of it. It is merely human greed that doesn't allow it. Good evening, and enjoy your mindful eating.